Hi everybody, I am Anna Shadley, and I am the SPO for the College of Education and Human Ecology. So we've probably emailed. That's how we do most of our work, is through email. So we're going to pick up after you've submitted your proposal. That's where we'll begin. Because before then, you've probably been working with Neil or Bing in the EHE Office of Research. And you've worked with them to, prepare your proposal. You've worked with them to fill out what we call an OGC 005. We have a lot of forms, and I'll talk about some of them today. You've probably worked with them to make sure your conflict of interest is up to date, all that stuff. At that point, you guys will contact me, and I'll review your application and then hit submit. All right, so let's say you got the award now. All right, once you get the award, you probably think, what do we do now? We've got the award, how do we get started? Well, the first thing that we have to do at OSP is review the award document, the contract or the agreement, however it comes in. What we're doing is we are looking to make sure that we're not agreeing to anything the OSU can't agree to, right? The university is bound not only by the laws of the state of Ohio, but also federal requirements and university policies. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about indemnification and holding harmless and all that stuff. We'll do that for you. At OSP, we will be reviewing the awards. Quick aside, you may have heard of OBIT. This is the Office of Business and Industry Contracts. They work with us. In fact, they're on the same floor as they're on the same floor as my group. If you are applying to a business or anything like that, business and industry, you won't be working with me. You'll be working with my counterpart in the OBIT office. And that changes, so I won't give the name. Right now it's Dave Fulmer, but that'll change. Let's see, if you're working with a federal sponsor, if you're working with a foundation, if you're working with anything that's not business for profit, you'll work with me. Okay? All right. So we've reviewed it. We have then determined what's okay in the contracts and what's not okay in the contract. One of the things that your SPO will do is negotiate with the sponsor. If there are items in the contract that we can't agree to, we'll ask you to review it as well to make sure that everything is okay.
There's a guide
So,
on how to use it. You have it right there. You can grab one of those.
One of the things that can happen during the negotiation phase is that sometimes you're eager to get your project going and you can't yet because we don't have it set up. We're still working on it. No one's signed off on it. It isn't executed. What can you do? If it is imperative that you get work going, if it is imperative that you start making your purchases, and you're pretty confident that this award will come through, we're just working on the details, the paperwork of it. We can set up for you what is known as a preliminary project. That's when we assign a number to you that will allow you to go ahead and start spending your money. Go ahead and start doing your work. I want to go to our website to show you. The website that you will be using quite a bit when you have a project is osp.osu.edu. That's the Office of Sponsored Programs, osp.osu.edu. This is where you will access a variety of e-tools that we have for you to help you manage your project. This is where you will find all of the lovely forms that the university requires for us to have. This is where you'll find contact information, who to talk to about what, that kind of stuff. And by the way, if you're ever in doubt, always just ask for SPO. They can direct you to the appropriate person as well. The preliminary project, at any rate, there is a section on our website for forms. There's a tab that says forms. Under there, you'll find forms for lots of different things, including this. Now, the important thing about a preliminary project is if you set one up, you need to be aware that if something falls through, ultimately the project will, all the expenses will be charged to usually your release time project, whatever you've designated on it. Okay, well at any rate, You can see the tab, it's like the fifth or so over where it says forms. I did want to show you that, but I can't seem to get it together there. Okay. Once we get the award negotiated, what we'll do is we'll ask you guys to look at it. If you're the PI, we want you to sign it. Now, this is very, very important. You are not signing as a party to the agreement. Never, ever, ever do this, because that puts you at risk. There are only a certain number of people who are allowed to sign on behalf of the university. PIs are not those people. What we're asking you to do is simply to sign stating that you have read the agreement, that you understand the terms. That's it. You're not legally bound to it as a party to the agreement. Then we'll sign it. One of my directors will sign it. We'll send it off back to the sponsor. They'll sign it. It comes back fully executed. The award is ready to go. OSP, usually your SPO, sometimes we have helpers. We'll set it up in the financial system. And here's the part you've all been waiting for. We will send an email to you that says, here's your project. Here's the number. Your project number is what you're going to use to spend your money. It's your account number, basically. You may be familiar with them. They usually start with like 600 whatever. Okay? That's how you tell the fiscal system where to charge the expenses to. Okay? When you get your project number, one of the first things you need to do is contact your fiscal officer or your HRP, whoever your department administrator is, letting them know what your project number is, right? Also letting them know who needs to be appointed to the project. Do you have grad students, for example? Otherwise, these people won't get entered, and they won't be part of the project, and they won't possibly be getting paid. So just let them know what's going on. I try to copy them on that email that I send out telling you you have a new project. But again, it's always good to schedule a meeting with them or touch base or something to let them know what you need to have appointed to the project. All right. One thing about the project numbers is we can set up separate accounts for you. For example, you might have a co-PI and you want to have their stuff separately. That's fine. Let us know. We can set up an internal division so they have a different project number. As the PI, you're still in charge of everything, but they can sort of do their own thing, or perhaps you want to have separate project numbers to help yourself keep organized, different tasks for different projects. All of those details you can talk about with your SPO when an award comes in, and your SPO can work that out with you in whatever way seems to fit your research best. All right. So you've talked to your fiscal officer, you've talked to your HRP, letting them know what's going on. We want to get to the PI portal. The PI portal is going to probably be your single most useful tool for project management. At OSP, we have a number of training resources for you, including a session designated solely to how to use the PI portal. So I won't be really spending a whole lot of time on the portal today. I was hoping to show you, we'll see if we can. But you can always sign up for these sessions. If you go to that osp.osu.edu website, search for training, you'll see a whole host of presentations, of training workshops. Many of them are recorded, videoed, online. You can watch it, at your desk. Others we have scheduled, and you would come to a session without something. Also, in addition to the formal training sessions that we run, I am more than happy to sit down with you one-on-one and walk through the portal, walk through anything you want to show you how to get the most use out of it. Here we go. I'm getting to the portal from that osp.osu.edu website. You'll use your Kerberos login, ID. Your view will be slightly different than mine. But what will show up for you will be any of your projects. Okay? Also, your proposals will be on here if you've submitted that EPA 005. I'm just going to pull up a project just to show you. So here's a project. Don't worry about how I'm getting here. That's what those trainings are for. Okay. The main thing you're going to want is this screen, budget, okay? On this screen, we'll tell you, here's what your budget is. This is what you told the sponsor you'd be spending the money on. You can see salary, wages, you know, all the different budget categories. So we've got that going. That's what you told the sponsor you would spend. This is what you've actually spent. And there's a tab for that as well if you want to see the details, like what did you actually charge to the project. Commitments, usually what shows up here are things like sub-awards, things like personnel appointments that aren't active yet, but you know they're coming. And your balance takes into consideration the commitments as well. Okay? So, sometimes you'll see a negative number in that. Sometimes that means you should probably freak out. But no, you don't need to freak out. What you do need to do though, is figure out why you're seeing a negative balance. Is it because you've spent too much money already? If that's the case, you need to talk to your SPO, talk to your fiscal officer to see what's going on there and how you can remedy that. Or maybe you're simply overcommitted. You haven't spent all the money yet, but maybe you have a personnel appointment that's going out too far. Something is wrong there, right? Again, your SPO and your fiscal officer, your HRP, they can help talk you through that. What happens if you truly do have an overrun? That money goes back to your department. I'm sorry. Those expenses go back to your department and you're on the hook for them. So you will want to monitor this very closely. As a PI, as a departmental administrator, you want to make sure that you're spending the way you ought to. There's also this month-end financial statement. I don't tend to use it that much. I know some people do. It's like your monthly bank statement, right? It's a snapshot of a static point in time. I find it much more useful to look at the data that's updated overnight, which is what is reflected here on this screen, okay? Except for things like HR appointments. Those are only once a month. It's a system limitation. All right, so you're also going to want to look at the terms of your award. Okay? The terms and conditions are what the sponsor has said you can and cannot do. As your SPO, I will help guide you through this. And of course, if you have questions about it, let me know, right? One thing to note, even if you do not have a federal award, that doesn't mean that anything goes. It's part of our compliance with auditing requirements. We hold all of our grants to the same exact rules, federal or not. So that's important. Yeah. Mm-hmm. On the Documents tab, we upload things you might want to know, like the actual agreement. Already have emailed it to you, but you'll want to look at it sometimes to refer back to things. If you issue sub-awards, if you issue consultant agreements, your proposal is usually uploaded up there, things like that. Okay. And I'm going to have you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there ever a time or any kind of question that would not be in your PI portal? So if we have something through a center that's on OSU, something that's something like that, is there ever a time when that wouldn't be?
If it's going through OSP, then it'll show up on the portal.
Okay.
Yeah. There are sometimes internal grant competitions, I know. We don't have anything to do with those, so those won't be on the portal.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Anyway, there are a lot of tabs here. I encourage you, come to a PI portal training session. They'll show you how to use it and get the most out of this. Or just call me, come by my office, and I'll sit down and walk you through it. Happy to do that too. So I will mention that in addition to the terms, also there are reporting requirements that you'll see on this. And I put that in your project email as well. You guys have to do the technical reports. We can't do this for you. We don't know the science. My doctorate's in political science, so I doubt I can help human nutrition much. But what I can do is have people in my office do the financial forms for you. Okay? You guys don't have to do financial reports. In fact, you should. We'll take care of them. Right? Patent reports are another one. Property reports. We do these things. Okay? You guys don't have to, but you have to do the technical stuff. All right, so as your project is going along, you might wonder when to contact your SPO and when you're fine to just keep going. Well, the simple answer, of course, is if you're curious about something and don't know the answer, of course, call us. Our role is to support you. Our role is to help you, right? It's not to tell you what to do or to give you more paperwork, although sometimes we do that. Really, we're here to help you. So, let's say that you are working on your project and your budget isn't looking like how things are actually going. This happens sometimes. No one can foresee exactly how a research project will go. If you determine you need to change your budget officially, contact your SPO. Okay? Your SPO will then act as a liaison and ask for permission from the sponsor to officially change your budget. Some grants you can do that as you wish. Others, you have to get that prior approval. Your SPO will know when the situation applies to which one. If you need to know something about what's allowable, let's say a bunch of people are coming to town for your project and you want to treat them to a night with alcohol and dancing, we'll tell you no. There are just some things that aren't allowable, okay? It's worth mentioning, yeah, Bint. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Anna, it's Lori.
Yeah, hi.
Do you have a checklist of what's not allowed?
It varies so much by project to project, but this brings me to my next point. It used to be a lot more complicated. We had to follow the A110, the A133, the A21. These are all OMB circulars from the federal government. As of any awards issued December 27th, 2014 and after, there is one uniform guidance, okay, which will hopefully simplify things quite a bit. Now, there are basic things, right, that, like I mentioned,
Well, just what you said now. Okay, after December.
December 27th.
Okay.
So if you get an award after that, like now and going forward.
Okay, but if we, okay, so, all right, but if we already have the award, it's not going to count.
That's right.
Okay.
So there are things like, you can never buy alcohol and entertainment unless presumably it's for an experiment, right? There are basic things like, let's see what else. Generally, you can't charge your fees and dues to a professional organization. All this stuff that when you get an award, you can talk to your SPO about, okay?
Lori, did you have any specific thing that you had in mind?
Well, I get confused, and I don't know if you're going to bring this up.
Mhm.
I get confused on the e-requests between my, teaching and learning
Right.
person and then the the advisors, because in my grant I have a list of advisors and boards, and I get confused how that works together.
So when you put in an e-request, my understanding is that your departmental administrators, your college service center, they have to approve it, right, for it to go forward? I think that's correct. Okay, great, fiscal office. So they're not looking for what works for the grant. They're not looking for what's allowable in terms of the grant. They're making sure it's okay with university policy, right? And that sort of thing. Then it comes to OSP purchasing. Is that wrong, Kate?
Certainly not project funding, they're definitely looking at it, whether it's just grant.
That's great. That's wonderful. She
So
says they do. But anytime an expense hits your project, OSP purchasing, which is not my office, they're on the 4th floor of my building. If it's something that raises a red flag, they'll ask the SPO, is it okay? All right. Computers, which, by the way, under the new uniform guidance, it's going to be a lot easier to get computers for your projects.
So as a PI on multiple projects, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I have had projects, expenses that I've put in, the service center has said okay, and then OSP has said no.
That's right.
I mean, I've had that happen. Or I've had somebody from the service center or the fiscal person say, you can't do this. And it's like, well, it's in my grant and it says that I can. And so I've had to really negotiate
Yes.
and say, okay, OSP, service center, fiscal person. I mean, it can be a real pain.
Well, there are a lot of nuances for a grant, but department is simply not.
And that's what I was
cost,
getting at.
you know,
Yeah.
right, it was a-
She
it was a
says-
partnership cost.
Exactly.
So Faith was saying that there are a lot of nuances to like specific grants, that maybe something is okay or is not okay, that would ordinarily be the opposite case. There's no way your departmental administrator has the time to even know that, right? So that's where we'll come in to help with that.
Well,
And open communication is key. Get your your PI, put an email chain together with your SPO on it, with your departmental admin person on it, saying, hey, look, here's the issue. I need to buy this for my grant. They're telling me no, what's going on? And then we'll talk about it.
Oh, and
Don't have to
talking,
put it the same day that you need it.
Right.
Or something.
Yes, do it early enough that it can go through in time.
Anna's even told me no too.
I have. We try to find ways to say yes, but we have to be good stewards of the money, so. Let's see. Maybe you need more time on your project or other big changes. Talk to your SPO. They'll communicate again as liaison to your sponsor to get those permissions that you need to make the changes that will make your project a success. Sub-awards and consultants. I noticed there was like a survey that I think Kim sent out about this. Sub-awards, a few people had questions about that. And I'm not sure if your questions were, what is a sub-award? Or how do we initiate it? So a sub-award is when you are, in essence, parceling out part of your scientific scope of work to another entity, not OSU, outside of OSU. Usually it's other universities, right? Of course, we have a form for that. What you're going to want to do, first of all, is talk to your SPO. Say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this work. How do I do it? Your SPO will direct you to the forms page. Well, we'll talk to you first to see if that's actually appropriate. Don't worry about the numbers. It's called a PR033A. But if you go to this page, you'll see all kinds of forms here. I'm at osp.osu.edu, and then just click on the tab for forms. Scroll on down to sub-awards. And click it, it'll open up a form. I'm not sure if it's fillable. Yeah, it looks like it's fillable. Just fill in the information. Your SPO will take it from there, and we'll actually set up a contract for you with the other entity. We'll need your input, of course, but we'll make that happen. We'll make sure they've got all the compliance and audit stuff taken care of, and that sort of thing. I don't want to go into too much detail here right now, but there is a way that if it makes sense for your project, for another entity to perform part of the work, that's the sub-award. Yeah, Lori.
So, back to what you said about, if you have a co-PI that you want to give another project number to.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think when I might want to do that, and I would think about only doing it if the co-PI was at another university.
So in that case, that's a sub-award, and we can put we don't need to do a separate project number for that usually.
Okay.
And I'm happy to meet with you and actually work through that a little bit in more detail. But when we're thinking about setting up multiple project numbers under an award, excuse me, really we're thinking of something that will help you manage it internally here at OSU. Maybe you're working with a professor in another department, for example, and you'd like that person to keep track of their budget separately from yours. You're responsible for all of it. You have, as the PI, are responsible for the oversight. But this way you know that this person is only spending out of that budget for that account. Yeah, Rich?
Will that show up as a commitment in the portal?
That will show up with its own blue screen of the project.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, it wouldn't be a commitment. Yeah.
If we have a grant or project through Nationwide Children's, I know there's like reciprocity with the IRB sometimes.
Yes,
and other things.
yes.
But if our spending is going towards things over at Nationwide,
That's usually a sub-award,
okay.
and we're actually,
Even if
not
the
writing a
PIs
check,
agree.
but we're giving them money to do
Okay.
stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like they're sending us expenses.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's under there. Yeah.
So within the screen of the project. computer,
Yeah, let me get back to that, go ahead.
Is there a means of knowing, hey, this project has a modern project, or this project
Yes.
has X, Y, and Z is all connected out?
So those 6,000 numbers, that's one single account. We assign every award that comes in what we call an award number, or a GRT. If you click on that GRT number, if there were multiple projects, they would show up right here, other numbers underneath that.
Can we look at something like the HE?
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, that's a good example. So I'm going to,
Probably minimize the ribbon at the bottom so you can.
yeah, I can't,
Well,
there's something popping up on this and I can't really.
well, yes.
Oh, here we go. All right, let me pull up an award to show you. This is a great example of one because it has lots of projects. Really? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Accuracy. Really? All right, so that's what I'm headed to now. Contrary to popular belief, we don't usually have your project numbers memorized. No? Okay. Let me get to his awards. Okay. Here's an example. One award number. That's that GRT number. Underneath that, he has several sub-accounts. They all have their unique project numbers. This was an internal division that we created to keep this complicated project hopefully a little bit more organized. In this case, the PI happened to, by the way, parentheses, negative numbers, this isn't accurate. It has to do with the way this project is funded. So don't think he's overspending. He's not. So in this case, he happened to have all his subawards have separate numbers, right? Sometimes we do that to simplify things, Lori. Sometimes it's not necessary. We look at each project and determine the best way to do that. And we would work with the PI on that. Like, for example, your subawards, if you have one, there would probably be no need on the remodel project to do that, right? But that's where you go. You would look up that GRT number, and you'd see the projects listed.
And I could do that on any of the separate project numbers.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can do that for any of them. If you only see one project, there's only one project. Yeah.
For all the sub-award and consent agreements, are they all in the documents there?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And if you think that one is missing, let your SPO know. Sometimes we overlook them. Yeah. That way you can review them and see what's going on there. Yeah.
Okay, so if I filled out an AP compliance form for my evaluator
Mm-hmm.
for the first year,
She's talking about a consultant that she's hired.
and now I need her for the second, she's still on the grant.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to fill out another compliance form? What
If
do I
none
do?
of her information has changed, that's all in the fiscal system. It's in PeopleSoft. We don't have to keep adding it again and again and again. And in fact, what you'll do is you'll fill out, because there's a form for that.
Yeah, but
you'll-
that's what I say, you still have to fill out a
There
state
is a
form.
form that's called a consultant amendment. You don't have to go through the process and reinvent the wheel all over again, but you have to let us know that you want to give this person more time, more money, something like that. Because we
So-
only hire them for generally about a year.
Is it a hire or are you paying them as a?
Exactly, we're not hiring them, we're paying them,
So
sorry.
a consultant amendment, what's it called that I forget?
So, the first thing you'll do is a consultant form, right?
Yeah, that I read.
When that person's term of working for you is up, preferably you'll do this a little bit early, do an amendment. You're amending it, you're changing it.
Even though I wrote it in the initial that it's gonna be 2 years,
It would depend on how we set it up in the first place, so why don't we take a look at yours
Okay, all right.
and see?
Okay.
On the consultant form, it's the agreement that OSP will send out, the dates and the amounts will be on there, okay? So you'll know what you need, if you need to get another amendment going or not.
So Anna, in terms of these subawards and the consultant agreements, we go back to the forms, and all of those are on the forms page.
Yes.
The thing that I kept forgetting, well, first of all, you have to do those as quickly as possible. I mean,
They
that's-
take time.
Yeah, and that's good, so you have to do that. And then, but then in a year, I would have to, redo the subaward form. Like every year, I would have to do that. Was it
The brand
because
new
my?
packet, not just an amendment form?
Maybe it was an amendment form, but I had to make sure that I did something else to continue the work.
Yes.
And I would forget that. And it would be, they'd be sending these invoices and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do that.
Yeah.
So there's something that you really have to keep track of these things.
You do.
Yeah.
And you might want to like put an appointment reminder, like some kind of
Yeah.
tickler reminder in your calendar. 9 months down the road, you know, check on my subaward to Clemson. Do I need to do an amendment?
Right.
And if you're not sure if you need to do it or not, call me, email me, whatever. I'll help you determine that. But I'm not going to be able to tell you to do it. We simply have too many projects, unfortunately, to
And the
give you
system
that level of service. There's
doesn't have
nothing that
temporary-
triggers it in the system. Just kind of have to keep an eye on it. But when you have a moment, if you would go to our website and look through these forms, you'll be able to see the types of things that require the forms that we all seem to love. There are also some notes about procedures too.
And do not use the least time coming from the email.
The release time form, I don't even know what that is.
Maybe it would just be double five. I mean, one thing I notice is there's never a place that, sticks right out and says fiscal officer. I mean, sure, my chair has said, I'll take this risk.
Right.
Of $120,000.
Yeah.
I don't expect my chair to do that.
Well, before your chair signs it, your chair ought to be checking.
Well, I don't.
And if they don't, your chair is taking on risk that your department will have to eat.
Well, I think the forms can be helpful because my chair is a superstar, I just want to quit.
Sure, of course,
I expect him
yes.
to be a businessman.
No, I mean, it's two different sets of skills, right?
And I
Yeah.
think that it is our responsibility to provide resilience in a place that has a fiscal officer signature or acknowledgement. That'd be helpful.
Okay, I will take that back to OSB. She is asking for, a departmental admin person, like the fiscal officer, to also need to approve some of these forms. And it makes a lot of sense. We balance that against the burden of having to circulate forms to 12,000 people. Yeah, all right, can I make a note of that? Okay, great. All right, we're getting towards the end of this. I just wanted to say, when you get near your project end, I will send you an email saying, hey, heads up, you've got about 60 to 90 days, whatever it is, before your project ends. I copy the research office on it, not to get you in trouble or anything like that, but just so they're aware of what's going on too. Especially if, as I understand, they're going to be moving more into helping with post-award, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, Lori?
I have some questions on IRB and research.
Yeah.
Is this appropriate time to ask?
Sure. I will say I do not do IRB. That's a separate office in the Office of Research.
Okay, so I guess I just have I don't know who to if I just go to IRB, but there are just a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Is that the people who have given us our money, the grant, want to, they wanted some of our data.
And you need to know if that's okay or not.
Well, we did not want to give them specific data. But then they want to interview us. So then they came up with their own IRB. And we have agreed to, be interviewed, and anything we don't want to divulge, we won't divulge.
So I think that really is a conversation you need to have with your IRB analyst.
Okay, and
Problem
who's
is the
our
same as Michael
IRB
Donovan.
analyst?
I'm sorry?
There are actually multiple IRB analysts that can actually work with our college. And I'll tell you what, I'll make sure. There's a drop-down menu and it'll say exactly who. So, I mean, Michael Donovan,
That's
absolutely.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah, go ask
And Jake
Michael.
Yes.
Stoddard?
Yeah, Jake Stoddard.
Yeah.
They'll let you know if they're not the right person.
Right, but if you look on the IRB homepage, there is a drop-down of, and there's about 6 folks that can actually work with PhD.
Here's another note about the IRB. If you have human subjects, you want to get going on that as quickly as possible. It's my understanding that, except for the medical center IRB, they only meet about once a month, and they may not be able to get through everything. And you cannot start your research on human subjects until you have that approval in hand. So I know you guys are super busy, but that is something you need to make a priority if you have human subjects. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So in the project ending email, there'll be a number of steps for you to take. You want to make sure that you're again touching base with your HRP and your fiscal officer, that expenses are right, all that stuff. We'll talk a little bit about what your reporting requirements would be in that email. And maybe you need more time. Maybe you want to know cost extension. That means you're asking for more time on your project without getting more funding. Talk to your SPO if you think that's appropriate. Some awards will let us do that automatically the first time for a full year. Other times we need to send a justification and ask for permission. That is a possibility. One other thing I wanted to mention was this issue of cost reimbursable versus fixed price awards. For some of you, most of your awards are fixed price. What this means is the sponsor has given you a chunk of money and said, you're being paid for the tasks you're doing, right? But the cost reimbursable, you have to actually incur expenses and they are reimbursing us. With a fixed price award, when that project ends, if there is money left over, it gets transferred back to your unit. I think for general research purposes, they've changed how they do it, but yeah.
And I do want to add is that we have an internal policy on how that money has to be spent.
Yeah.
And it is on the website, so that's
Right.
something that's kind of made a few people mad. They have built some major war chests over the years and had to end up spending it. And so it's something new, but something we have to be aware of.
That's right. If it's cost reimbursable, if you don't spend all your money, the sponsor keeps it. That's just the way it works. F&A? Well, I think no. F&A is removed from that. So you don't get all the money that's left over. The universe, by the way, OSP doesn't get any of that F&A. A lot of people think we do. We don't. That's okay. So anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about. Other than to point out again, please go to our website, look for training opportunities. Okay? Or call me. We'll set up an appointment and walk through the portal. Things like that.
So any other questions for Anna?
Yeah, Carolyn.
Do you have any idea of the U.S. Department of Agriculture?
What? Yes. What about them?
You're trying to get vehicles paid for them.
Okay.
They say you need to register the savings account.
Yes, you will.
And you're saying you don't have one.
OSU definitely.
That's what we.
Why don't you give me a call later today?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.
So when the project does close, say,
Sure.
and if you get supported as you are, or 2 semesters to or something.
Yes.
So the project is closed, how do we go about enforcing that project?
For that fee
some-
waiver, the tuition waiver, right? I'm not exactly sure what we would do there if the project ended. I think you'd have to plan ahead for that. Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. I don't know how many of you have never met her in person, but now you're faced with the name, and she is very willing to help many of the things that Anna said that you could talk to her about, you can actually talk to Bing or Neil or this new person that we are
Yeah.
hiring in terms of the Coast Award support. So Jill Morris, who was going to talk about federal requirements, she is not going to be here today. She had a family emergency. She was going to talk about federal requirements in terms of open access, the PubMed Central, and also Sci, NCB, My NCBI, and then OrcID, ORCID. We'll go ahead and pull some resources just as a general awareness, and we'll get that out to everybody. On down the way, maybe we'll have Jill back, and she can talk about those things. So what I wanted to do was actually talk about some products and services that we have, but before, just because I'm having a little trouble with the website, I just wanted to add these very important dates, and we'll send these also out with the follow-up. We have our Student Research Forum that's coming up next week on the 29th. Our graduate and postdoctoral travel grant applications are due February 1st. Then we're going to have a Centers Expo in February where we actually bring in our centers and have them put together. We're going to talk for a little bit about how you can get involved, but also all the products and services that they have available. And then a Qualtrics use cases, and then finally managing data in the life cycle, in the context of the life cycle of a grant, which I think will be very, very important to see. So let me get rid of this. So now I'm going to talk about research, the research office, and to get to all of our resources, you come to the EHE website and go ahead and click on the research tab. And we have reconfigured our website, and we hope that it's getting a little bit more easy to navigate and also to find what you're trying to look for. So we've got the research highlights. The thing that I thought was the part that might be most appropriate is the grants and contract support.
Kim, you're not on the website anymore. Yep, I don't know.
So what did I do? Yeah, it is a pretty picture. Gosh darn it. I'll let you do it. You know what? So while Alex is putting that together, I have a handout that I've put together. I've also put together some handouts for e-certifications and conflict of interest, just some quick guidelines that made sense to me as a PI. And so if in fact you are a new awardee, these are the things that you have to do. It very much reflects the email that Anna sends out. I figure if you see these things 2 or 3 times, you might actually, it'll sink in. And especially, it doesn't sink in until you need to know it. So there are all these documents on the web, and until you need to know it, it probably doesn't. Oh, good, it doesn't even register. So the action items, these personnel appointments, and this table is in the grants and contract support page. And I know that there are changes to this. I know that SEEP is got a new HRP and a new fiscal person, or will soon. There might actually be others. But between our office, Anna, and your HRP and fiscal person, it really does take a village to get some of these things worked out. But feel free to call our office too, and we can also help. So personnel appointments, that's so important to get those folks on your project. On the next page, project purchases, subcontracts and subawards, consultants. So those are direct links to all those forms that Anna was talking about. I also put in what I think are some of the important parts of the PI portal, that as a PI, not the whole thing, but just some important things and just some highlights of where I think you need to go and what makes the most sense. So just one document, you could put that in your folder somewhere, And in terms of our website, our post-award support, you can see that that's there, the table. And so we've just provided, like for instance, Faith, you were asking about release time appointments. There isn't a form anymore. There is a policy though, and you need to know the policy. Let's say that you want to be on somebody's grant, or you want to get release time for a course perhaps. There is a policy. I don't know that everyone knows that there is such a thing to help guide the choices that you're trying to, things you're trying to get accomplished. And I don't need to scroll all the way through this, just to know that we do have a lot of the resources that you might be needing on this page. I am working with the service, I always call them OTEL, of course they're not OTEL anymore, but to make some drop-down menus so that you don't have to scroll. One of the other things that is new are these frequently asked questions. And a lot of people, I personally like frequently asked questions quite a bit. And so, like proposal development, contracts, research in schools, Anna was talking about the training. And there's an Office of Research calendar, and this calendar will include IRB trainings, it will include UPI portal trainings, grants management. So there is a place to actually find information about these training opportunities. So any questions that you are having and that you send to Bing, Neil, or myself, we actually create a frequently asked questions entry, and we will put this, put those questions in here. Let's see. One last thing is where will all of this information from today actually be posted, including videos, and this would be on our professional development and training page. We have our current workshops and then our past workshops. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but all of our past workshops, we have captured all of the documentation, the PowerPoints, the videos, and those can all be found here. And that's exactly what we'll do with this session.